Hello again, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to this session in the A4Q Testing Summit edition 2025. Well, I'm very lucky to have with me Jeroen Mengerink and Michiel from Poltech. Both chaps are test architects, I believe. Hello, both.
Hi.
I'm going to get off the stage in a moment and let you crack on with your presentation, which I'm quite intrigued by, I have to say. Just a note to the audience, if you would like to ask any questions, please pop them in the comments box. We may not get to them during this session, but we will try to come back to you afterwards. We'll have a chat with the guys. At the end of the session, please do go to the profile for Michiel and Jeroen, because we will be having a competition, as always, for the best presentation, best speakers, and you'll be able to cast your vote in their profile. We'll remind you about that at the end. I'm going to get off stage now and hand over to our two test architects. Sit back, everybody, and enjoy what I know is going to be a really good session. Thank you both.
Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome from wherever you are. I'm Michiel Keij. I am a test architect at Poltech, and this is Jeroen Mengerink.
Hi, I'm Jeroen Mengerink. Like Michiel said, I'm also a test architect at Poltech. So at Poltech, we are operating from the Netherlands and Belgium, and we're handling international customers. We have a focus on quality from a software perspective. And we deliver and monitor how the software quality process goes. And next to that, we're also an educational institute. But let's start looking at why we are doing this presentation on living architecture, a quality view. So one thing we all know is that software architecture is important, not just as a basis for designing what you're going to make, but also to keep it maintainable, to keep it testable, and make sure that we're doing the right thing. The common pattern is it's just not maintained during your software development lifecycle. So we start out with a nice architecture, somebody designs it, then we get some changes during the software development lifecycle, but it's no longer updated. And actually, we need it in a way to decide if the software is of a sufficient quality for the context. That's complex because architectures get more and more complex. But if the architecture and the actual implementation start to differ, it's even more difficult. So how can we fix this? Well, to start off, two small definitions. These are the only definitions that we'll do. But we need to set the context for what we're going to do in this presentation. So architecture, it's a blueprint for a system. That's at least the architecture documentation. We also have implemented architecture, of course. But this will help you how to put the system together, make it hopefully less complex if you design it properly. So we can look during development and after development if we're doing the right thing and if we created the right thing. Then quality. What is quality? It's how do we look at a software product if we scope it to a software product? How much does it fulfill the requirements? And there we have stated requirements, so the described, documented requirements that we all know. But we also have implied requirements. So the requirements everybody wants the software to have, and they think they're so obvious that they do not describe them. And we might also have obligatory requirements like laws. So these are the basics. So how can we make architecture living? So let's look at some challenges that block teams.
Yeah, so let's go over the organizational challenges that people can encounter when architecture is unclear. The first one we see is responsibility. If no one knows the architecture or the entire business processes or the IT process that are involved, then it gets really hard to know who's the owner over these business processes or the IT processes. If it's unclear who to contact, then communication becomes a lot harder. When it becomes harder, then you will see that the communication between the technical teams gets harder. And say, for instance, you are testing something, who do you contact when a business process is going to be released? Who are you going to contact when an IT process is implemented? It gets hard if you don't know who to reach. So the responsibility and the communication can get really hard if you don't know the exact architecture. Documentation is usually also an issue. So knowledge is scattered within the organization, usually when the documentation of architecture is insufficient. So you don't know exactly how an API is defined. You don't know who is responsible for an API. You don't know exactly what is behind that API if the documentation is not available to you. So it would be really nice if you have a more central place to have documentation. Another issue which can be identified is governance. So if you have no real-time quality view over your IT landscape, then you don't know if you are ready for a release. You don't know if the quality or the risk is mitigated sufficiently. So governance is a real issue that can arise from a lack of a good view on your architecture and quality. So let's look at what happens when these challenges remain unresolved. You can have efficiency losses, and efficiency loss can be viewed in a time to market and a higher cost of implementation. So I encountered this real time in a big logistical company I worked for. One of our challenges was we needed to do an end-to-end test where we wanted to check if some information from the factory made it all the way to our app. Basically, what we needed to do, which we didn't know at the time, was make a request to a team which was earlier in the chain, and that team would actually shut down the factory and make the images and the data we needed later in the app. We didn't know that we actually stopped the operation when we did the test, and we needed to do it multiple times. And also we needed like 4 or 5 teams involved. So getting this done usually took a really long time. So our time to market rose each time we hit this feature. And the cost of implementation rose increasingly as we needed to stop the operation and we needed to get a lot of people involved to coordinate this. So that's a good vision on why not knowing how your architecture looks like and who is responsible made it take a lot more time for what was essentially 3 communication layers.
Yeah, and if we look at quality loss, I've had experience with some businesses where one of them even made the 8 o'clock news with a bug that was introduced. So you could imagine that would have some image loss and some revenue loss as well, because their customers weren't that happy for reaching the 8 o'clock news. We could have solved this if, well, there were a lot of teams working together on different parts of the product. But the one team didn't know enough of what the other team was doing. So they both had a slightly different representation of the API, or at least what it should work and how it should work, what it should do. So, well, it broke down in production, causing major problems in production, which in the end, like I said, reached the 8 o'clock news. And all these challenges, if we look at the challenges from the previous slide, if we take the two suggestions, the business cases that we presented, they all can lead to employee dissatisfaction. If you are not sure what you're doing or how you're doing, or you get the pushback after, well, why didn't you find these issues? Why did we reach the news? You can imagine that it reaches the employees, and the employees are thinking, well, I did the best I could. I even signaled some stuff, but you didn't listen. So they are dissatisfied, which makes them more prone to leave the company. So you have the higher employee turnover. And if you start challenging your employees, they will start thinking, well, why am I doing this? Let's top down. Let's go down a notch, so the productivity will go down. So, well, we wanted to do something about all these problems. So let's introduce you to the product we're creating, which is Koala. So meet Koala. That's the nice Koala you also saw on the first screen where we presented ourselves. Koala stands for Quality Annotated Living Architecture. And what do we want to do? We want to go from just architecture to a living architecture, to keep it in sync with the actual system and make it more useful throughout the life cycle. So what if we could continuously update the architecture to reflect the actual implementation? That would be a nice idea. So if we continuously update it, make it living, make sure that everybody is involved, everybody feels responsibility for updating the actual architecture, well, that would be a nice way to make it also reflect the actual implementation, because during implementation of the architecture, people would start updating it. So we could annotate it by connecting test results. So to make sure that every part of the architecture, if we are able to visualize it, make sure that we see if the tests that reach that part of the architecture are passing or failing, and visualize that. That's an annotation on the architecture that would help us see the actual real-time quality. And we could also make sure that we visualize business processes over the architecture. In this way, linking business needs more to the IT implementation and architecture, bringing business and IT closer together. So what does this look like if we look at this in practice?
So here you will see an impression of the application we made. So this is a work in progress. It's the UI is always being optimized, and we are expecting colors and features to change a little bit during development. But basically, you can see here that we created an architecture. The application you see here is Koala itself. And you can see the quality annotation right here. So here you can see we selected a specific component, and you can see the test results that are linked to it. In a bit, we will go to scenarios. So these are the business flows that are encountered in a application. And in this one, we will see that the new test report is uploaded to the CI server. And you see that only the components that are highlighted were the ones active in the scenario. You can immediately see which ones are green or red, so which have failing or succeeding test results. This is basically an impression of what quality annotated living architecture looks like. So let's go over each of these components. So this is the visualization of the architecture. So we allow you to draw your own architecture within our tool. You can see all the applications that run in your system, and this is layered. So you can make a tree structure where you can go from a top-level domain to smaller domains to individual APIs if you want. And hardware is also included in the visualization. So you can visualize specific hardware components should that be needed in your situation. You can also define your own different environments in this. So you can draw something that is not actually created yet and show it going through the dev, test, acceptance, and production stages with each of their own testing suites. So quality can be annotated within each specific environment. And we wanted to do this for you to be able to create your own visualization as you see fit. So you can speak with the teams as they perceive their own architecture, and the architect visualizes its own architecture. We want to keep architecture accessible throughout the development lifecycle so that it remains active and maintained, and it shows who you need to reach when something goes wrong. So for instance, you have in this case, you'd have a database management service. So let's say the DS, which is the data store in our case, it's in the left bottom. Say something goes wrong there, you could ask someone who manages the front end, which is DOS, which is at the top, you could see who is responsible for the data store and know who to access and who to reach, which saves you 2 steps in between, which could really kickstart your communication. So let's look how this works when we add quality information to the visual model and annotate it with quality concepts. So this is a visualization of the same architecture, only we add testing reports. So you can see 3 different colors here. Green, which stands for everything is going great. All the test scenarios are green. It doesn't say anything about coverage. You still need to look at that yourself, but at least you know that the tests you did run are green. The ones that were red means that some either of the tests are failing. So if you have a nice pyramid with unit test, integration test, and end-to-end level tests, either of those is failing. You can see which one it is when you click the component, and then on the right you will see exactly which test it is failing. The ones that are yellow mean that you do not have coverage for this, which is also an important part to see what's going on. This can be very beneficial to identify components which are new and you did not make tests yet, but also keep in mind that for some environments you do not have production tests, for instance.
Yeah, and we also want to centralize on business process testing. As you can see here, Michiel already explained it a little bit during the video. I've selected one business process, which is logging into the application. All the components that are not involved in this business process are grayed out. You still see them, so you still see the whole architecture, but you can focus on all the IT components that are related to your business process. Making it very easy to talk to the business, to your product owner, to people that are involved with the business processes on, well, if we select your business process or your main flow through the application, you can choose any scope here. Is it working? All the tests, in this case, you see that all the elements that are selected in this flow are green. So you know that all the tests that were created for this business flow are green. So probably it's okay to go live. If another process is selected and you see that one of the components or maybe multiple of the components are not green, if they are red, you know, well, there is a problem. It might not impact a test on one of the components in this flow fails. It might not impact my process, but then you can dig in deeper to see if it actually impacts your process. So you can still decide, well, this test that's failing is not that important for my process. So from my perspective, from my processes, we can go live. You can get a little bit more insight and knowledge on if you are able to go live or not. So we're going from isolated reports into more integrated reporting where we can see what we want. So if we then look at the presentation of the test results, we created a presentation that looks like some of you might know the cucumber representations. It looks a little bit like it. So we have the given when then highlighted. So Gherkin language is recognized by our reporting. But the main reason that we wanted to create a presentation of reporting is to make it uniform. The main thing I struggle with my customers is if I need to explain if we can go live, what are the remaining risks, what is covered, what is not covered. The main problem there is, well, we have unit tests, which are in a specific format, and they have some sort of HTML view on the results. We have integration tests, which most of the time have another representation of the results, so the visualization is way different. And then we have end-to-end tests with yet another presentation of what do the test results look like. So what we created is transformers. That's a little bit technical, but we created some transformers to make sure that you can upload any report type you have. we transform it to an internal representation so we can visually represent it all the same. So if you open a unit test report, of course, you won't see the given when then because those steps aren't in the unit test reports, but the report itself looks the same. You can open the tests, you can close them, you can see how long they took, if they passed or failed, and everything is in a real time, a real representation.
And this not only helps the business itself, but if you have multiple teams who work with different technology stacks, they will all have the same presentation of test results. In my experience, that can be very beneficial in getting the issue on top quickly.
Yeah, and this also benefits the real-time collaboration. So if something fails in my, you can directly work together in Koala. So if I have the view open and somebody else uploads a new test report, or a new test report gets uploaded somehow, I immediately see the color of the components changing if it now fails or if it now just became green. If somebody adds a component to the architecture, I immediately see it. So we have real-time collaboration, which also helps hybrid teams. It encourages shared ownership. So I see something changing, which might be a service that is related to the one I'm working on. So I'm on a different team. I see that the connection to my service changes. Then I can get notifications and know that something changed. So I might need to dig into the integration with that component. So it reduces the gap between teams and roles and makes sure that we all work together. We have architects that are working in this tool to make sure they can keep a real-time view on what is actually implemented, because developers and testers and ops will adjust the architecture view as they see how it's actually implemented. So you can start work together, collaborate, and own this.
Yeah, so I think that's an important part of our tool. I think we ourselves mostly try to make sure that you can collaborate and that you can trust and align against each other. So the communication, I think, is the most important part we try to fix here. We spark communications within and between these teams. We can do that by making the responsibility a lot easier to see. You know who is the owner of an application which on a service you rely on. You break the silo and you become responsible for the business process you are trying to deliver to a customer, and not just the service you are trying to maintain and the process you try to maintain. So you can help identify the points of contact between the services, even the ones you are not directly related to, but which do help you deliver that service to a customer. We centralize the documentation, so we centralize the access to static documentation, and we try to make the documentation that you already have as living as possible. When documentation is alive, it tends not to age as bad as static documentation, and because it's centralized, people are more inclined to update it and keep it active. That's the reason we call it a living architecture, because the architecture itself is alive. It's annotated with actual test results, and that says something about how the architecture functions. Because we provide a real-time, up-to-date quality view, you will be better in charge to make decisions based on actual quality reports and have a good conversation with everybody involved on, is the quality there? Are there any big risks around in this architecture? Do we need to update something? So I think the benefits of using Koala are mainly getting people to talk to each other. It's not a tool that's going to fix everything for you, but it's going to make it easier for you to work in a big complex architecture and big complex systems, which pretty much all systems are these days.
So we let's get back to where we started. We still all know that software architecture is important. But keeping it relevant and useful over time is a challenge, which is what I told in the introduction. Still valid, and hopefully by making it alive, we continuously update the architecture by creating it as a living architecture. This also calls for the quality view that we deliver. The quality view in the living architecture is keeping updated by showing us the state of the components in your architecture. Are they tested, and are the tests that you run successful or failing? Or at least the tests are successful. Is the test result a pass or a fail? That is what they will show. So the living architecture powered by quality data leads to better decisions. It leads to stronger collaboration and more trust in the software that you build. So we would say try using it. And if you're interested or want to see more, we're happy to talk to you. Just come and find us at our website.
And thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for introducing us to Koala and its uses and benefits. I know we have some questions, so we'll move quickly on and have a look at those now, I think. Can we have the questions on screen, please? Here we go. I work in a team and know how our part of the application works, but I don't know how the specifics of the complete architecture. How would you deal with that?
Yeah, let me think. So, of course, you can start with visualizing the part that you know, making sure that at least the thing you know of is visualized, connecting the test to it, and make sure that this part of the architecture is starting to get living. Then you will see that some of your tests probably touch a different part of the application. At least, mostly, of course, if you're also having end-to-end tests or something like that, you will see that more parts are covered. So if we start to add those test cases, then you will see something beyond your part of the application is touched. Then you are inclined to talk to the other teams that maybe are responsible for that part of the application and ask them to help you update the architecture, expand it a little bit. And so we can slowly grow the architecture until we get more and more of the complete landscape.
I think we see it as an ink drop.
Thank you. Thank you both. Do we have another question? We use Selenium and Java and run the test suites in our Jenkins pipeline. How do we get these results to connect to the architecture?
Yeah, so Selenium and Java is supported in our framework. We connect these test results through our CI API. So basically what you do is you connect a test first in our application. And you will get a curl request back that you can use to implement in your CI framework. Basically what we do is you have an ID which you can put into the API together with every report you generate, and we will connect it the same way as you connected it in the app itself.
Yeah, so basically this works for Jenkins, but it should work for any CI/CD tool you're using. It's just adding one step in your pipeline, which after the tests are run and the report is created on the CI server, then one step is added to upload that report into the tool and make sure that it connects to our architecture.
Yeah. We really try to make this as easy as possible.
No doubt. Just notice your sweatshirts. They are really cool. Cool. Another question here. Our newest test framework uses Ragnarok. The test output format is way different. Does your tool support that?
Yeah, so the framework that Ragnarok uses is kind of a lot of under change. It's still forming, but we do support the test output already. So the way they have formed it right now is imported. So we use it. but we're going to actively maintain it once they update their format.
Thank you. Another question? In our company, we mainly work with embedded software, so the hardware components are also very important. Is it possible to include these in the architecture diagram?
Yeah, I recall you already mentioned hardware slightly in one of the slides.
Yeah.
So what we showed in the parts of the architecture that we had in this presentation are all software components. I've worked with one of our customers to make a more hardware approach. So we added some visuals for representing a sensor or a switch or a server. So we try to keep in contact with all the users and make sure that we get their wishes in. We can add visualizations for parts that we do not do yet, and really easily also support hardware or embedded stuff.
Thank you. Well, I think we've come to the end of the session. I can't see any more questions at the moment, but say to the audience again, please do add them there, and then we'll try to get responses for you. And a reminder to everybody to please have a look at the profile and to cast your votes for best presentation and best speaker. Gentlemen, thank you so much, and please say hello and send my very best regards to everybody at Poltech. It's always great that you support the A4Q Testing Summit. So nice to see you here again. Thank you for that. And to everybody who's watching, please stay tuned. There are a lot more sessions to come, and enjoy the rest of the A4Q Testing Summit edition 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.